Kia ora, good morning. I'm just documenting a dream I had. I woke up at like 5:15, seeing that all hell's broken loose again. Um, if the king is listening, there's I don't know why they keep saying. If you look at the comments and some of the videos that I've put in, people are rooting for you. Long live the king, they're saying. So I know that these articles that I just posted are talking about, people saying that you're in a between a rock and a hard place because, like, if you do this, then it's going to throw the country into political crisis, and if you don't do this, then you're the one that's going to be put in the firing line and all that sort of thing. It's not a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. It doesn't need to be that dramatic, Your Majesty. This has been done before. Your ancestor, King George, was it the fourth or was there a fifth? King George the Fourth? Was it? Or was it the third? He dissolved Parliament. He was so sick of the fighting and the corruption and the nonsense, he dissolved Parliament. And he watched over the country for the last few years of his life without there being any Parliament. This doesn't need to be dramatic. What you need to understand is that the second Great Britain finds out Starmer is gone, you will be seen as the hero. This is your opportunity to save Great Britain, and it doesn't need to be dramatic. Keir Starmer has broken so many laws, he's committed treason across so many fields of his duties as Prime Minister: treason, high treason, petty treason. He could be arrested for the things that he's been doing, and you know that. And it doesn't need to be a drama. That flumpty flute, that King's Law dream that I had, all the dreams that I've had, all the laws that I've been bringing to you were to prepare you for this battle because your mum knew it was coming. God knew it was coming. This is your opportunity now to seal your fate and solidify your position in history as one of the bravest, strongest kings the history of the British Empire's ever known. Don't don't let him get in your head for a start. That your constitutional lawyers and that I know it says that they're going rifling through like ancient laws and stuff like that, but I've handed most of them to you. The reason why I'm saying this is because of my dream. It was a weird dream, but I'm gonna do my best to document it and tell you what it means because I've had to write some of it down because it's a warning. And now that I've woken up and seen what's been sitting there, I understand what the dream's talking about now. I've just finished my coffee because I've had to sit with everything. It's been a lot. I've only been awake not even 45 minutes and already I've been put on duty. God's already put me on duty. So the dream I had, it was me and my boys, one of their friends, me and my boys, two of their friends and my ex. And we were in a car and the car was parked in a field and we were playing zombies. And the thing was is that we all had to get into the car without being touched by the zombies. It was kind of like when I was little, we used to play this game called Bull Tag, where one person would stand in the field and then everyone would line up at the other end and then they'd come charging across the field. And the person who was the bull would have to tag someone, and if they tagged them, if they were able to tag someone, you had to tap them 3 times. Then they stood with you, and then everyone would go back to the line, and then they'd say, bull rush. No, it was called bull rush. It was called bull tag, bull rush. Same thing. And then they'd all run, and then you'd have two of you trying to tag people, and then everyone who got tagged would then join the people that were shouting out bull rush. So it was kind of like that, but if you got touched, you had to be a zombie. And we were, it was fun. We were having a laugh. And there was, they weren't friends with my boys in real life, but in my dream, they were friends that my boys speak to on Discord. The one that was being like the main zombie, he was wearing army camouflage. I remember that he was wearing like a camouflage army jacket and all of that, and he was running around trying to open the car doors to get to us, and we were locking them and laughing and all of that, holding the door shut. And then my ex-husband drove off, and I was saying to him, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Well, I'm driving away from the zombie." I said, "Yeah, but you're going to make him think. If you drive off, you're going to make him think that he's been left behind. You're going to make him think like we've left him." And so I made him turn around and go back to get. I'm trying to remember his name. It was something like Campbell. Go and get Campbell. It was a name like that. Calvin Campbell. And he turned down the street to do a U-turn, and the road had been ripped up, and all these cars had been tipped on its side. And it looked a little bit apocalyptic, but it was, in the dream, it was probably more like they'd been ripping up the road to redo the road, which I think they've just done outside where I live. But it was eerie. And I turned the radio on, and on the radio the song was playing, "I Predict a Riot." And I was thinking in the dream, has the road been torn up and the cars tipped over because there was a riot here, like people tearing the streets up? So we turned around, we went back to the park, and my boy's friend was walking down the street, and I was like, there he is, and we ran over to him, and I said to him, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Chris is an idiot. He didn't know how to play the game. He doesn't know how to play the rules and that. Come on, get in the car." And because he looked really sad, and so he got in the car and he was happy. And I was saying, "Who's hungry?" And they were all like, "Me." And they were saying, "We can just eat the people in the car." And we were laughing because everyone was being a zombie. And then I woke up. No, oh God, I'm missing out the pivotal part. When the other friend, who was smaller than the one wearing the army gear, jumped in the car, the one that his name was something like Campbell was circling the car trying to find a way to get in. He was shouting this poem, and that's the bit that I had to write down. I had to remember it while it was still stuck in my head. I was saying it over and over and over again while I was making my coffee. So I'm going to tell you what the dream means first, and then I'm going to tell you what I wrote, because now it all makes sense. I was going over it and over it and over it in my head so that I'd remember it, so that when I was able to grab a pen, I could write it down, because I didn't want to get it wrong. So I know they're threatening to do that whole 15-minute city thing. They're trialling it in Oxford and all that sort of thing. So they're getting ready to put everyone in concentration camps. But as God keeps saying, it doesn't matter what the Labour government and all their crooked laws and that they bring in. It doesn't matter what they threaten the people of Great Britain with. the government is going down, and God and the Queen have been saying over and over and over again, the cops, lawyers, and judges that have in the pockets of the Labour government will go down with Keir Starmer. Now, this is important that I remind you of this, because one of the things that I just posted, which I'll put in the description box below, is talking about how the Crown Justice has called an urgent meeting with the King to let him know that Keir Starmer is getting ready to mess around with the, constitutional laws and the judicial system in a way that is going to be really bad for everyone. It's because he's trying to, with these no jury trials and making sure that certain judges and lawyers who are more sympathetic to Labour and, communism, like the Fabians and all of that, are put into the positions of power, so that when they bring in the laws that remove the King's rights to rule over the government, and when Starmer's Rent Boy trial comes about in April, and that he's manipulating the law to suit his own agenda, basically, to bring in communism, to bring in socialism and all that. That's the whole Fabian thing. I warned the King. It's not like I didn't warn the King. So, us being in the field, in the car, being surrounded by zombies, even though it was a game and we were all laughing, is talking about the people, families, the British citizen being forced to be contained in order to appease a very dangerous game. Emphasis on the game. We were playing a game, but they was, it was zombies, and if you were touched, you became one of them. So, talking about how the British people are being forced to be contained in order to play a dangerous game. But the fact that everyone in the car was laughing means that whatever it is they're trying to do, whatever it is that they're threatening us all with, it's not going to go their way. The timing of it is just kind of blowing me away. Because I woke up, I went to the bathroom, and then I checked what was going on, and the videos were there, the stuff was there about the 15-minute cities in Oxford and that. So then, because Chris drove off, and I was like, what are you doing? You're going to make him think like we've left him behind. That's the King. That's the part I'm talking about. I'm referring to the King. Even though it was a game, and it was a dangerous game that was being played, I was reminding my ex that we can't leave the King behind. That we have to go back and get the King. The fact that the friend was wearing camouflage, army camouflage, has got something to do with probably the King's Army getting involved, which is a dream that I had with the King's Army getting involved. And maybe the military, or it could be representing being on the defence and standing by the King to go on the defence together, go on the defensive together, because obviously he was no longer a zombie. So the dream was basically talking about how the people of Britain, I think the two friends in the dream were American though, which I'll explain in a minute. I know the dream sounds confusing because it's not as cut and dry as, because the friend that was being the zombie, it means zombies mean a lot of things. It can mean people who are mindless, people who are sheeple, it was kind of, this dream had a lot of meanings based on the fact that there was that, you know, we were playing zombies, sheeple, people who go along with the crowd, people who are easily influenced. It, you know, because we were driving off and leaving him behind, and then, you know, I was saying go back and get him. It's to do with, how do I explain it? The king has been lied to. The king has been easily led. The king has been told things that he trusted, and so he went along with the crowd, but now it's affecting him. He got turned into a zombie. And the laws in his position that he unwittingly was using against his people left him isolated from his people, which is why we drove off. And I was saying, go back and get him, like he's going to think that he's got no one on his side. He's going to think we've left him behind. This information that came about when I woke up about the judge going to the king, requesting a meeting with the king, which apparently has never been done before, and saying to the king, you need to look at what Starmer and his government are doing. The king's worried about how, because they said that, you know, if the king does this, it's going to cause a political storm, and if he doesn't do this, it's going to look bad for him. It's going to look like he's not doing his job properly as king, because it's his job to make sure that the government do right by the people. He oversees the government to make sure that they do everything by the book. So I was saying to my ex, go back and get him now, because he's worried that if he makes the wrong decision, it's going to come back on him. But it's not. The people are going to think he's a hero. Looking at the comments in of those videos, people were saying, you know, come on, Your Majesty, like basically giving him a pep talk, long live the king, and yay, come on. People were backing him, and sort of saying, why is getting rid of Keir Starmer taking so long? So people are waiting for it. People know it's coming. And remember the dream I had yesterday, where I heard the rumble and the moaning, the mournful cries coming from that street in London, and then when I heard the ground shaking and it was moving under my feet, and when I turned to look, it was a sea of flowers. Well, the street that we drove down, where the road was all torn up and the cars were tipped on its side, and I could hear the song I Predict a Riot when I turned the radio on, I think there's about to be like a revolution. I think the people, this 15-minute city thing, like it's pushing people, it's pushed people, it's tipped them over the edge, and there's about to be a political earthquake, which then these videos, these news articles that I found would make perfect sense. There's about to be a political earthquake, and it's the people that are going to be shaking the ground, but they're going to be joining the king. People will stand by the king, because we drove back, and you know, and then because I said who's hungry, and everyone was like me. It was like I was leading them. Food for thought. Whenever you have a dream about eating or going to get food, it's like contemplating. Food for thought, handing you things that make you think in order to feed your soul, in order to give you the energy and courage to act. So it would be my videos and my posts and all that sort of stuff. So what the dream was basically saying is that the king thinks he's in for a political firestorm. He's worried about this affecting his reign. He's worried that it could have consequences on the monarchy, But what the dream was saying is he's going to have the backing of the people. The fact that the two friends were American, now this is the interesting bit, because one of the posts was talking about how Keir Starmer and his government have been changing the laws and doing things under the table that are in line with foreign investors who have um, a reason for wanting to get on his good side, because he's actually working on what it was saying in this article was that evidence has come to light that Keir Starmer and his government have been working on behalf of foreign donors and foreign investors to line things up for them. So it's talking about people like Thale, Palantir and BlackRock and all that. And so all this information's come to light. And remember I was saying the other day that when all hell breaks loose and the king steps up and saves Great Britain, all these foreign investors like Palantir and BlackRock and Vanguard and all of them will flee the country. They'll sell off their properties and businesses and that to avoid prosecution, because I'm telling you now, there's going to be a referendum to bring in the death penalty for some of these people, to try some of these people. Rupert Lowe's already started talking about it, as I said, and I've had dreams where some of them are swinging from the noose. In my King's Army dream, when they were all being rounded up and taken to those military camps and that for military trials, there were gallows there. And this is important because when the older friend was running around the car trying to, open the doors, we weren't allowed to lock the doors. And we kept forgetting that we weren't allowed to lock the doors. So we had to hold the doors shut, but the rule was you're not allowed to lock the doors. So basically meaning the things that Keir Starmer and his government are trying to do, they're not allowed. They're against the law. But when the older one was running around the car and we were all laughing and, it was kind of like when we played FNAF with my boys, like jump scares and that. It was funny, but at the same time it was scary because you didn't want to be touched. And yeah, even though it was a game, you were still having like jump scares and that, because he'd bob down behind the cars and jump up. And so just meaning uncertainty. Britain's and the king are dealing with things that have never ever had to be dealt with before in living memory, and in sometimes a couple of centuries, and that, and these uncertainty, people are unsure of what is coming for Great Britain, as is the king. I keep wanting to say his name was something like Campbell. So what he was saying when he was circling the car, that I had to write down, and then I woke up and I was memorising it, and then I wrote it down, and then I checked the news and I'm like, oh my God, this is what it's talking about. So this is a warning to Keir Starmer. And what he was saying is this: when he's forced back underground, the devil's cry will make no sound. When he's back off his feet, the devil cannot take his seat. Going down without a right, the devil will try and take flight. Try to flee to yonder border, but he is stopped when judge shouts order. I'll read that again. When he's forced back underground, the devil's cry will make no sound. When he's pushed back off his feet, the devil cannot take his seat. Going down without a right, the devil will try and take flight. Try to flee to yonder border, but he is stopped when judge shouts order. So when he's forced back underground, meaning the devil's cry will make no sound. When he's forced back underground, the devil's cry will make no sound. he's going to have to stop everything he's doing. That all the people that that the devil, has been in league with in order to try and pull off this game they're playing, using the king to their advantage, they're going to have to go back underground. It's good. They're going to have to, they'll be removed from the light. They'll be removed from their positions above the ground, and they'll be forced to go back underground, meaning basically like their political careers are cut dead. Their business in the UK will be cut dead. They'll be forced to go underground. They'll go into the underworld. They will no longer see the light of day. They'll be forced underground. They will be removed from the light, as in like above ground. Their positions above ground as politicians, as judges, as cops, as whatever, will be pushed to the underground. So they'll be removed from their positions of power. The devil's cry will make no sounds. It means that there's nothing they can do. They won't be able to defend themselves or explain away their actions because they know they're done for. They can't fight it because they know that the things they've done are so illegal that there will be no defence. They'll know the jig is up, so they won't try and fight it because they can't fight it, because if they try and fight it, it's going to make it worse for them. And one of the articles that I just posted, and I'll put it in the description box, was talking about the king has gone to Keir Starmer and given him a certain amount of time to hand over information that he's requesting using laws that Keir Starmer can't disobey. And if Keir Starmer hands over this information, he knows he's screwed because it's going to incriminate him. But if he doesn't hand over this information, then it gives the king the legal right to remove him. So that's what it was saying about the devil's cry will make no sound. And then I woke up and saw those articles and I'm like, oh my God. When he's pushed back off his feet, the devil cannot take his seat. So the king pushing him back, these laws, whatever it is that the king has requested, it's going to knock him over, it's going to tip him off his crown, it's going to remove him as and remove his powers as Prime Minister. The devil cannot take his seat. So whatever it is that Keir Starmer has been planning, it's not going to come to fruition. Everything that he's been quietly lining up behind the scenes that the king has now found out about because what people have been whistleblowing, it's not gonna happen. Going down without a right, the devil will try and take flight. So when Keir Starmer and the people, and it's not just talking about Keir Starmer, it's talking about his government, his Labour Party as a whole, all the people that were on his side, because the devil always has minions. So in reference to the devil, it's also talking about the minions. When they know that the jig is up, when they know they're done for, they may try and flee the country. They may try and flee, do a runner, because remember I said that's what's when Starmer's investors and that the BlackRock investors and Vanguard and all the people that the IDL and all of that, when they know that the law is coming to get them, some of them are going to try and skip the country. They'll flee. So Starmer might try and take flight as well. Try to flee to yonder border, so getting out of the country, but he is stopped when judge shouts order. So the judge, whoever the judge is, it could even be the king, because it's he controls the borders, His Majesty's borders and all that. It is actually what I said he should do. I said if I was Prime Minister, the first thing I'd do before I announced that, before I got like the military and the cops and all that to round up all the crooks, all the people who were working against the king and country, I'd shut the borders so that nobody could flee, so that, no politician or anyone who was working here on behalf of BlackRock and all of that, they wouldn't be able to leave the country. They'd be stopped from flying, so they couldn't flee. And that's what I think it's saying when the judge shouts order. And it might not necessarily be order, order, although I think it is. The rebel rousing and the judge shouting order, close the borders, don't let them escape, so they'll be trapped, which is ironic because when I woke up and saw the thing about the 15-minute cities and people freaking out, I thought, no, that's not going to happen. But ironically, everything that they've tried to do to us will now be done to them. So they're trying to stop us from, having the right to be able to have nice days out in the countryside and, go to museums and stuff in the next town or city, or travel over to Wales or Scotland for a few days without getting permission. They think they're going to get away with it. But what's going to happen is God is going to flip it so that they're stopped from leaving the country. They're going to be stopped from leaving because they're going to be rounded up in nets and hauled off to prison. So I'll read it one more time. And then when you click on the article on the post that I got the information from about what the King's done and the hellscape that Keir Starmer's just set himself up for, him and his party up for, they were saying there's no one that they trust to take over as Labour leader because, Angela Rayner's already dealing with her stuff and nobody trusts Streeting and nobody has any confidence in Reeves because she's Rachel from accounting and all of that sort of thing. And then I was saying to the King that it reminds me of my new Labour Party dream, as it was me that was the Prime Minister of the new Labour Party. Now I don't know now if New Labour means like that was the name of my party, we're the new Labour Party, or whether it was because it's a brand new Labour Party, or whether my political party was called New Labour. I don't know how I would do it around my stomach and that though. I've been in agony the last couple of days, but something's going to get done. And so I think that dream, my new Labour Parliament dream, was letting everybody know what's coming. The Prime Minister's going. There's going to be a reshuffle. There's going to be a tearing down and a building back up of the Labour Party. And they're either going to change their name to New Labour or there's going to be a new Labour Party. And that doesn't mean to say, obviously, because I'm not even registered as an MP or anything like that, but me being Prime Minister in the dream, me being the one to tell Chris to go back and all of that, it means that I'm letting everybody know what's coming, like a Prime Minister would do. My dreams are me letting everybody know what's coming, giving them a heads up so that they're not scared, so that they know that everything is going exactly according to God's plan. And this hellscape that we've lived in for the last year and 7 months, was because people, especially the King, needed to see for themselves what's been going on underground, what's been going on behind closed doors since Tony Blair was in power. He had to see it with his own eyes so that he would be forced to take action. And when he does, people get a new Great Britain. They get a Greater Britain. So it doesn't matter what they threaten us with. None of it's coming into effect. He's not a legitimate Prime Minister anymore. And that's one of the things that they were talking about. He's broken so many laws now. He's not a legitimate Prime Minister. And if his oath of office isn't legally legitimate as well, then every law that him and his lawyers and cops and judges and all that have passed are also illegal. So they'll be dismantled and then they'll be arrested for breaking the law as well. Not only petty treason, but high treason. Petty treason is when civil servants break the law against the people. High treason is when they break the law against the king. And they've done both. And that's what that dream means. I know it sounds a bit discombobulated, but it was. I had to sit with it for a bit to try and figure it all out because it sounded like it was all over the place. Just simply for the fact that they were zombies. The friends of my boys were zombies, and then but they were also the representation of the king and crown. So I'm going to read it to you one more time. When he's forced back underground, the devil's cry will make no sound. When he's pushed back off his feet, the devil cannot take his seat. Going down without a right, the devil will try and take flight. Try to flee to yonder border, but he's stopped when judge shouts order. And I really do think in this case, the judge is the king. I think he's going to bring the gavel down and make the final judgment, because in the first post there was talking about when the judge went to the king and said, look, here's information, here's recordings, here's this, here's that, and then the king went to Starmer and said to him, you need to bring me this information. It said that this information that the king has requested, Starmer thought he was getting away with it. And he's been given 3 days apparently to present this information to the king. I don't know how old this article is, but if he presents this information to the king, his career's finished. But if he doesn't present this information to the king can get rid of him. So he's screwed either way. So he is finished. He is going to be arrested. Him, and in the dream that I had, I said him and 6 or 7 other people. So he is going to be arrested along with other people in his party. I know one of them was Lammy, and I think one of them was Streeting, and I think the Ginger was in there as well. And they were all being led out of 10 Downing Street. They are going to go down. It doesn't matter what they try and threaten us with. Nothing that they have hidden from us, like how they've been secretly bringing in this law and then they drop the bombshell. Oh, hey, by the way, we're going to stop you from leaving the city. We're going to stop you from having family days out and stuff. None of it's going to come to pass. Nothing they threaten us with will come to pass because the king is going to step up. I've been saying it time and time and time again. The king is going to step up and shout order. Nah, we're not doing this anymore. So whatever information that the king has requested from Starmer, whether he abides by the order or not, he's finished. And he knows he's finished. Looking at him, he knows he's finished. He's just trying to save face and protect his reputation because he knows once he's gone, he's failed his puppet masters. And then more than likely when that happens, when you fail your puppet masters, they send you underground, if you know what I mean. They send you to the underworld. They JFK you. They Louis the 15th you. You know what I mean? So the king's going to step up, I'm telling you now. He's doing the right thing. He's doing everything he's meant to. That dream I had where his mum was standing on Windsor Castle and she stomped her foot and the ground was shaking. And she said no, it knocked the king over. But then the hand of God came out and stood the king back up. And I said to the king, you're going to be affected by what he's done. You're going to be affected by what's been done. Because the thing is, Starmer messing around with the laws and putting certain judges in places, it's exactly what Donald Trump's been trying to do. But they're all turning on him now as well. And that's what I'm saying. It's fascinating because everything that's happening to Donald Trump is happening to Keir Starmer. because they work together but they pretend they're foes but they're not, he's slowly bringing in the same thing that Trump has been doing, but it's all backfiring because now the judges are turning on Trump as well, and he's starting to lose. He's lost Mar-a-Lago, he's lost Trump Tower, he's had all his money frozen. They've put him in his own little 15-minute city, so to speak, like a financial 15-minute city. The same thing's starting to happen to Keir Starmer. He's trying to implement the same things that Trump is, because they want a one world order, and all the laws and all the judges and even people in the Secret Service and that, according to some of these posts, have all been running back to the king. So they're all starting to validate everything that I've been trying to tell the king since Starmer came into power. I now have backing. People are starting to back my claims up, but the people who have power and influence to be able to talk in the king's ear, like members of the Secret Service, are starting to go to the king and say, we recorded this, we've got this information. Actual judges and MPs and all that are now going to the king and validating everything that I said. So I'm going to read it to you one more time. When he's forced back underground, the devil's cry will make no sound. When he's pushed back off his feet, the devil cannot take his seat. Going down without a right, the devil will try and take flight. Try to flee to yonder border, but he is stopped when judge shouts order. Try to flee to yonder border, and taking flight could also mean I was going to say it could also mean trying to distance himself from accountability. Because he worked for the Crown Prosecution Service and that, he might try and use obscure laws to defend himself and the judge says order, but I mean that would be pushing it to the extreme. But we'll just take it for what it is now. So just don't worry, people, because God, the king, has the backing of God. There are laws that he's going to find out that they will use against Starmer and his government, and they're done for. Like, it doesn't matter what they threaten us with, they're finished. There will be a general election, there will be a snap election, and either Labour will no longer exist, or they get someone in power to be the new Labour leader that everyone agrees with. So I know it was a weird, complex dream. I'm still trying to wake up properly myself. My eyes are so heavy, but don't worry about it. Just the timing. I woke up and I saw the news, and I saw the articles, and I was like, oh my God, when I was listening to them. So then, I had to try and remember what he was chanting when he was circling the car. But it's also my 2007 dream that London's calling. There's about to be, like, the people are going to rise up like never before, and they're going to tear up the streets of London. They're going to tear down Downing Street. They're going to tear Parliament down. Metaphorically speaking, there's going to be clashes between the people and the king and the government. The people are going to take the side of the king. The king is going to have the backing of the people, and that's all he needs to remember. This is his moment to take his position in history and in also changing history forever. This is his moment to shine. The king has now been called to stand and take his place with his people and take his moment in history where he gets to go down as the saviour of Great Britain. So he's been called to take his place amongst his people, to protect them, and fight his government, which is exactly what's coming. People are about to go ballistic, and there's nothing Starmer's going to be able to do, because the king's going to have the backing of the people, and the people will be backing the king, and people are just going to end up loving him. He's going to be so happy. The rest of his reign is going to be not only peaceful but happy. He'll spend the remainder of his reign as the King of Great Britain, as the King of the British Empire, happy, smiling and laughing and happy, and going back to when, remember when he was with Diana and all of that, when they used to go out and meet and greet the people, and they were always handed presents, gifts. People had made gifts and they'd hand gifts. Remember when William was little and that, the people would be waving the Union Jack flags and, handing them gifts. It's going to go back to that, where people will be lining up and handing the King and William and Catherine and all their kids and all that, like handing them homemade gifts and presents and cards and all of that, because people are going to fall back in love with the royal family. They'll be, it took a while, but we got there in the end. Make do amend. Stay calm and keep British. Keep calm and stay British. People are going to fall back in love with the monarchy. The monarchy will be given they'll be seen in a new light, because people are going to be like, holy crap, Charles really does know what he's doing. See, whereas the Queen kept out of political affairs, Charles has been forced to in a position, which was the zombie thing. He's been backed into a corner. He's been forced to have to deal with it. But the way he deals with it, his mother was too steeped in tradition. He's going to be forced to have a more modern approach, because God had put everyone in position at the right time so that the royal family could see with their own eyes the deceit and deception that's been going on behind closed doors underground since Blair was in power. Because they had been raising Starmer since he was a kid for this role, to destroy national identity and bring in socialism and, all that sort of thing. He'd been coached ever since he was a kid. He was always going to be Prime Minister, whether he was voted for or not, because that was the plan. The Illuminati, they have a plan. Their kid, just like with how the King and William and that were raised with the expectation of you're going to be king one day, the same thing happened to Starmer. You're going to be Prime Minister, and we're going to coach you on what to do, and you will need to go to law school, and you'll need to do this, and then when everyone's in position, this is what you're going to need to do, right? So their plan it's not going to go according to plan. When he's pushed back off his feet, the devil cannot take his seat. So when he's pushed back, when he's denied everything he's trying to do, he's not going to be allowed to implement all the things that they've been planning to do. And then he knows that his goose is cooked, and he may try and do a runner. Or I'll resign, but then I'm going to go and immigrate to America or Israel or something, but the borders will be shut, and the king will say, remove his passport. Stop him from leaving. Do not let him out of the country, basically. If him and these list of people try to get on a plane, border and customs are to immediately arrest them, that sort of thing. So he's the one they're going to be backed into the corner, which was, us hiding in the car. The dream had so many meanings, that's why it took me so long to try and interpret it. So, yeah. So what's waiting now is when the king finally steps up and puts his big boy pants on and shouts, order, order, stop. We're not doing this anymore. The people find a new love for the monarchy. And how do I put this without sounding disrespectful or rude? People will see him with the same love and respect and admiration as they used to when he was with Diana. I was going to say he becomes the new Diana, but it's like the position he's going to be forced to take will make people see him in a new light, because they'll realise he does actually know what he's doing. That man is onto it, because he's going to come out with things that people will be like, holy crap, I didn't even know that was a law. I kind of feel like people are going to find out things, or people are finding out things where they're going to be so angry they take to the streets in a way where the king will act just in time, which is happening now, actually, to be honest. And then they'll see him in a whole new light, and he'll be the hero, not the villain, because he's worried about being seen as a villain by the government. But the government work for the people, and they forget that. But they're about to find out that the king is going to take the side of the people, because if he doesn't, he's not going to be king for much longer anyway. Because they set him up perfectly to take the fall for everything that they've been trying to implement for the last few decades. And that's why the Queen came to me and gave me those codes and that, and I had to risk everything to wake the king up. So there you go. So that's what the dream means. That's the dream I had. I'm literally waiting for news. I don't know, someone's going to come to my door, I'm going to get a text, or it's going to be on social media or something. But yeah, Starmer's resigned, Starmer's been arrested, X, Y and Z have been removed from Downing Street, calls for a new election, something like that. But I know it's coming because I keep seeing him in handcuffs. I keep seeing him in the back of a car with the lights flashing from the cameras, and him being humiliated with 6 or 7 other people in tow. It is coming. I know. I'm like, oh my God, hurry up. But everything happens in divine timing. It's just it's like I said last year, God keeps waiting to see how far Starmer's going to go, because the further he tries to push it, the deeper the hole he digs for himself, the more trouble he gets into, the longer the list of crimes he'll be charged with committing. So God's just been giving him enough rope to hang himself. And from the sounds of what's just happened, when the king went to Starmer and said, bring me this in 3 days, it sounds like he's at the end of his rope and he's about to swing, because of the gallows that were in the back of the dream. Did I say that? When we turn round to get the Campbell, I think his name was. I want to say Campbell. It might not have been, but it was like Calvin or Campbell. Yeah, there were gallows in the field, as we were driving away, and I was saying, who's hungry? So, like old gallows, like really old gallows. So that would imply that whatever is going to be used to have them, the laws that are going to be used that has them swinging on the ropes, at the end of the ropes, are going to be old ones. And in those articles it said that his constitutional lawyers and that were going through like centuries old laws to see what laws they could use against Starmer. And the gallows were old ones, like the ones that you'd see outside the old Victorian prisons and all that. So, yeah, I don't know if I mentioned that or not. So, yeah, so that's what I meant. I had to document it. So get ready. Get ready. We're about to see the king in a whole new light. Well, everyone else has already knew it was there. It's been touch and go. There's so many times where I thought, yay, this is it. He's going to do it. And then, like, no. But Starmer's directly threatening the king to his face, and William now. So He's been forced to act. But it's all been done on purpose. He's never been seen in a positive light. And this is going to change people's perspectives, which is why he went from being a zombie to just returning to normal once the game was over. People are going to see him in a new light. So there you go. So I'm going to go and make another coffee and wait for the news, because I know it's coming. It's like any minute now, any minute now. It's all going to be over and people are going to feel like they've woken up from a nightmare. And that it's all just been a bad dream. Just remember, it was all done on purpose, because the only way people were going to see the truth of what was really going on was by seeing it for themselves. God needed Starmer to be Prime Minister, because God was making sure that Starmer was the one who was going to bring the whole thing down. He's the domino that God pushes to knock everything else down. So just hang in there, because the king's about to become the hero. I'll speak to you later. Ka kite anō.